failure to execute a financial power of attorney and a healthcare document so that your family can manage your finances and make your healthcare decisions if you are disabled or incapacitated. These documents are often overlooked. Most times clients come into our office and they want to do a will or do a trust. They haven't even considered this. But if you do not have a financial power of attorney or a healthcare document and you become sick or incapacitated, basically your family has to go to the probate court and get appointed your guardian in order to manage any assets that are in your personal name, which a lot of people have IRAs, 401ks, file tax returns on your behalf, and to make your medical decisions. And the guardianship process is an administrative nightmare for family members, because basically all it is it's a moneymaker for the attorneys, because you basically have to get appointed guardian, you have to get court approval before you can spend any money. In Hamilton County, you have to have an attorney co-sign on every check that you write. And then you still have to do an annual accounting to show every penny that was spent. So it just becomes a fee generator, because you're having to constantly go to the court, get permission to spend, then you have to report to the court, you have to get an attorney to co-sign. And so basically a financial power of attorney, which it's a very powerful document, but it really is a simple document to create. It's not whoever. And so the financial power of attorney, they can go into the bank with it, they get listed on your account as your POA, and then they can access your accounts and pay bills, and there is no court involvement. Obviously, it's a powerful document. You wouldn't do it with somebody that you didn't trust, but it really can make things so much easier for the family. Also, healthcare documents. In Kentucky, the healthcare power of attorney living will is condensed into one 2-page form. In Ohio, there's separate documents. There's a healthcare power of attorney and a living will. But people don't realize that there's two ways you can go on that. You always will need a healthcare power of attorney, because what if you became sick and you were temporarily unconscious and somebody needed to sign for surgery? The power of attorney would allow whoever you designate to make those decisions. The living will component is you're either terminal or permanently unconscious. 2 physicians have examined you and determined that life support, feeding tube, it's not going to help you get any better. It's simply going to prolong the process of dying. By having a living will, that is your direction to your doctors today, that if I'm permanently unconscious or terminally ill, I don't want life support, I don't want a feeding tube, and I don't want my family to have to make that decision. So if you only have a healthcare power of attorney, you're saying, I want my family to make all of my medical decisions, including end-of-life decisions. If you know that you don't want life support in those situations, you don't want a feeding tube, and you don't want your family to have to make that decision, then you have both documents in Ohio, and in Kentucky, there's a living will section that you complete within the document. And I have had several instances just in the past year of families where they only had a healthcare power of attorney. They really thought they would be able to make those end-of-life decisions for a spouse, for a parent, and it's very difficult because they feel like they're killing a family member. And I also kind of just have experienced that there's also, what about the gray area? What about you're not? I mean, I think that comes up more, that you're not terminal, you're not permanently unconscious, but if your heart stopped, would you want to be resuscitated? And I went through this with a client a few months ago up at Bethesda Hospital. I mean, they ran through the list of, would you want to be resuscitated? Would you want to have paddles used? Would you want medication to try and start your heart? I mean, these are things I never even thought about, never knew. And it was a really good discussion for me being there, because there were things I didn't know about. But I think that comes up a little bit more frequently perhaps than, well, you're permanently unconscious, is how are you going to handle those decisions where you're not terminal, you're not permanently unconscious, but if your heart stopped, would you want to have a DNR? And so those are just, I just tell people, that it's important to think about and have those conversations with your spouse, your children, other family and friends who are going to be making those decisions, is what would you want in those situations?